Good evening, and thanks for tuning in to Book Bites, or bite-sized book reviews. So I've just finished reading Legion, or The Many Lives of Stephen Leeds by Brandon Sanderson. I've actually been somewhat interested in this book since my cousin told me about the premise some time ago, though I'm only just now getting around to it. This is actually a novella collection, like it's a set of 3 stories that are loosely connected by like a background plot, and it is pretty chronological. So the idea is that the main character, Stephen, has a really unusual brain. Like some people think that he is crazy, though, it depends a little bit on what your definition of crazy is. And he's the subject of a lot of psychological studies. But the thing is, Stephen sees like quote unquote imaginary people. Like everyone says they're imaginary people, but for him they are very real. And they all live with him in his mansion. Like he has a mansion with 40-something rooms in it because he has 40-something personas, I guess, that assist him with the cases that he works on. Like for him, these people are kind of ways of embodying the things that he knows and learns and gets exposed to. So for instance, if he needs to know Arabic and he doesn't speak Arabic, he can really quickly run through an Arabic dictionary. And if he leaves like space for someone, like he may, like a new persona will just turn up, basically, who has the skills that he has been crash coursing through and needs. So in this case, it would probably be someone who knows Arabic and English and can act as an interpreter for him. And they come with like their own entire backgrounds and histories, like their own past careers and families, and like all of that, along with things like their nationality and stuff, are not things that he controls. And a lot of times his like I guess he often calls them like hallucinations, also have certain things about them that make them a little bit crazy. Like he sometimes thinks of them as the parts of himself that he creates in order to cope with not being entirely sane, so that he himself can be a sane and quote unquote normal person. So he has all these different people who help him, and people will come to him to assist with different unusual cases. Like if you can, just learn a subject and a skill, that easily, like it allows him a lot of flexibility in the things that he can accomplish. So there's also people who think that he's basically just a genius and has like a weird way of demonstrating it or of retaining that information. So, as I said, this is a set of 3 stories. Like it has some sci-fi elements. Like the first case involves looking into a camera that can supposedly take pictures of the past. Then you have like a case that involves a company researching the ability to store information in people's bodies, like treating people like, I don't know, giant USB sticks, I guess. And then there's one that touches on virtual reality and things being used for prisoners and stuff like that. So in each of these cases, like as it introduces like what he can do, as well as like how he uses his really unusual abilities to like solve these different cases. And then it's also all tied together by a background, like his own agenda of trying to find the woman who taught him how to do what he does. Like based on the story, it seems like when he was younger, he actually used to just hear a lot of voices and see shadows. Like it wasn't until she came along that he found a way to organize like all of these unusual sensory inputs and stuff into something more coherent so that he didn't lose his mind. And this way of organizing it is kind of how he first began to see these imaginary people. But then there's also like a running theme, I guess, of him trying to figure out how to continue living this way, like because he can't really just keep acquiring new personas, and there's the risk of an incident that happened in the past where it sounds like some of his aspects like might have gone crazy, or like they might have turned into monsters. Like there are dangers like with what he does, and he also needs to figure out like how to cope with that and how to continue moving forward. And like the fact that it may be a bad thing that he has been increasingly isolating himself from society. Like the only person, like a real living person that he interacts much with is his butler, and the butler is like set to retire because he's like 70 years old. So yeah, I find the premise really entertaining. Like that's definitely my like. I think it's funny the way that it talks about, for instance, like if he takes 5 people with him, on his cases, then he gets like 6 different chairs, or like, people think he's really weird because, why do you need, for instance, 2 taxis to carry just 2 people? And it's because actually in his head it might be 6 people traveling instead, and he has to make these 2 realities fit together for him, or else it starts to give him a headache. But something I did not like. I will say that the story ended up being a lot more serious than I was anticipating, and I also find the ending a little tragic, which I would have preferred differently.